Good afternoon. Welcome to our talk entitled Doing Taxes at the Speed of DevOps. My name is John Rowe, Vice President of Technology at H&R Block, in charge of our modern tax platform systems. Joining me is Tony Ogden, Director of Technology for Modern Tax Platforms. Today we'll be talking to you about our journey in developing a brand new omni-channel tax engine. It is a journey started about 2.5, 3 years ago, and one that when we started the journey, we knew that we were going to have to approach the problem differently. And with that approach, we started to utilize DevOps. But before we go into the details, let's talk a little bit about who H&R Block is. H&R Block was founded in 1955 by Henry and Richard Block as an accounting business that grew to do taxes. Believe it or not, prior to the start of H&R Block, when you needed your taxes done, you actually just sent your information to the IRS, and they actually did the tax calculations for you. Henry and Richard were at the right place at the right time, and the rest is history with the company being founded. Today, we've grown to over 80,000 tax professionals across the US, Canada, Australia. We have over 11,000 locations, and we serve 23 million prepared returns, and about 8 million clients do it themselves. This equates to about 1 out of every 7 tax returns in the US is done by using H&R Block software or an H&R Block professional. Now I'm going to turn it over to Tony Ogden to talk to you about our seasonality.
Thanks, John. Good day, everyone. And thank you for your interest in H&R Block's DevOps journey in the modern tax platform space. H&R Block is going to continue to invest in products and services that bring year-round value to our clients. However, it's virtually impossible, almost impossible to remove the seasonality from our core tax business. I'm going to address several of those unique challenges that we have to plan for year in and year out. First and foremost, we have to align with the IRS as it relates to the number of days in our tax season. We typically start in the mid-January timeframe, and we go through mid-April. That's approximately about 112 days of the tax season. But we are at the mercy of the state departments of revenue and the IRS to certify their forms and schedules with us in preparation for the season. So if that certification process extends past the first part of the season, that 112 days actually becomes much less than that. We do have peaks and valleys that we have to deal with. At the very beginning of the season, from mid-January through mid-February, we typically deal with our refund client base. And then we slow down at the end of February, all the way through the end of March, and then we see a big ramp up as we get closer to the end of the tax season. Between the first part of April and mid-April, we typically see our procrastinator clients like me, or those clients that typically have a balance due. Those peaks and valleys, though, we are starting to see those be less sharp as it relates to the last few seasons. And I think that's primarily driven as we're seeing client volume actually spread over more evenly across the tax season. Our biggest challenge, though, continues to be that we experience or have one visit or experience one client visit each tax season. What does that mean for H&R Block? What that means for us is that we have to get it right the first time. We have to provide that wow factor. We have to prove that our experience and our expertise is a differentiator in the marketplace. I mentioned that we have 112 days approximately in the tax season, but on average, it takes 12 days for a client to file their return. 12 days. So what does that 12 days mean for us? It just means limited opportunity. It just means limited opportunity to convert that client or to be able to continue to retain our existing clients that prefer our brand. John also mentioned that we have around 11,000 active offices each tax season. As we get to the end of tax season, we close the doors on about 75 to 80% of those offices, which just means for us that we have a limited footprint once the tax season ends. Additionally, we have about a 4 to 6 month delivery time frame. And when you throw in the pandemic, that actually reduces that time frame even more. But I'm going to kind of paint the picture of what that means for us typically. As we approach the end of tax season, usually about 2 to 4 weeks post-tax season, we're now planning for next year's initiatives. We're finalizing budget. We're finalizing those strategic imperatives. We're locking in on what that scope is, and we're starting to do research and design activities. But as we approach the summer months, that's normally when we kick off our initiatives. And when you extrapolate that out to the beginning of tax season, you'll see that we normally have 4 to 6 months to file or to get ready for the upcoming tax season. Now, that's not limited on all of our initiatives, as we do have year-round initiatives such as modern tax and our investment in the cloud. that will span multiple years, but primary number of our initiatives are limited based on that 4 to 6 month time frame. And then last but not least, we have a high volume of seasonal workforce. We have over 80,000 tax pros that we have to onboard for each tax season. That onboarding process typically happens in a 4 to 6 week time frame. But we also have to make sure that they're properly trained and certified as we approach each of those tax seasons. I'm now going to turn it over to John, and John is going to address tax complexity at H&R Block.
Thank you, Tony. When we think of taxes, one of the issues with taxes is the complexity. That's why a lot of people have their taxes done by the use of a tax preparer or through a software product that actually guides and assists them through the tax preparation process. At the end of the day, though, there's really one answer that comes out. Either I owe money or I'm getting a refund. But to get to that answer does require a complex number of fields and forms. In fact, we have over 150,000 regulatory fields with that, and also 15,000 tax regulatory changes that come in every year. So when you think of the regulatory fields, 15,000 changes, there's a lot of automated testing and a lot of regression testing has to be done to make sure that if you change something here, you didn't break it there. Now, we have changes that come in from the federal government. We also have changes that come in from the various states and Puerto Rico. On top of that, cities and counties across the US, some, not all, but some actually have their own tax laws that people are required to file taxes. Sometimes they pull from the federal or state return, sometimes they don't, all depending upon each individual instance. Now, on top of all that,